and just
self-moving.
Sorry, it won't be in shot. Sorry, just a wire.
Oh.
Which is fine.
okay.
I looked straight at the camera. That's good stuff.
Should I go there? Yeah. Okay.
This is my optimum pitch.
Tell me about it.
I'm Jack Fairey and I play PATROCLUS.
And I'm Michael, and I am Achilles himself.
So my name's Joe Malyan. I directed the piece, and I'm also starring in it as one of the singers, Aphrodite.
I'm Tabitha Baines and I'm playing the role of ARTEMIS. So I'm also a singer throughout the show.
I'm Keir Buist, and I'm also one of the singers, and I play ARIES.
My name is Hannawin. I play BRISEIS and I'm also a producer of the show.
My name's Amy. I play THETIS, and that's all I do.
What is the play?
Stop sending to me. The play is Wrath of Achilles, which is a new adaptation, new version of parts of the Trojan War myth. Whenever I say that, the only bit that people know is the big horse, and we don't have the big horse.
No big horse.
But that story.
It's a kind of tragic love story between two men. It's based on the Iliad by Homer, which Jack, our writer, has adapted.
I've been working on a version of this for ages because I studied the Iliad, which is like the original version of this text, at Classical Civilization at A-level. So I've been doing this for ages, and then Joey, our director, he really loves this book called Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which is another version of this story, which we got you to read.
Really good, man.
And he came to me a couple of years ago and was like, read this book, I've always wanted to do a play about this story. And I went, well, I've kind of written one, which at that point was about half written.
Yeah.
So I sent it to him, we workshopped it, wrote an end, because there wasn't an end at that point. And it's kind of progressed on from there.
So the way it started, I read a book called Song of Achilles, which is written by Madeline Miller. It's a really beautiful piece, which is actually quite similar to the play in the end, which, again, it's based on the Iliad, but explores very much the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, and their love relationship. And as a gay man growing up, I craved a lot of kind of fiction which had gay roles in, that wasn't coming out stories or suicide stories or very politicised gay stories. So to find a kind of a fiction fantasy piece which had gay heroes, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And it's beautifully written, it's very poetic. I lent it to Jack, and I was like, you've got to read this, it's really lovely. He read it, loved it, and I said, oh, we should definitely try and put this on stage. It's just a really lovely piece. And he said, I've already written it. I'd already written this piece. It was like a 2-hour epic. So we had to then kind of cut it down to Fringe sort of size.
So the way I describe it is it's a modern adaptation of the Iliad. It's still set in that time period, but we're looking at themes that were relevant then as they are now. So sort of feminism, gender, homosexuality, LGBT plus things. So we sort of, I mean, the story lends itself to it anyway, but we wanted to bring it to life and show that even from this point in time, these things are still happening and still going on. So we've taken sort of that story, that very traditional story, and tried to mirror it back on the audience, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it like uses Greek myths and stuff to tell the stories and to talk about the themes that we still want to talk about today, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful piece. It's got really strong female roles. It's got LGBT plus characters, representation. It's just a really lovely story. It's a really beautiful, quite sad story. And we were sort of very keen for it to address LGBT issues, but in a kind of subliminal way. So it's not about them being gay. That's not what the story's about at all. It just happens to be a romantic story with two men, which is sort of really my kind of theatre, because I kind of want to educate audiences without having to think about it So young people come and see the show, they'll see Two Men in Love and they won't think anything of it, and then eventually it won't become a thing anymore. I think that's the goal. And I was also really keen to have some strong female leads, which I always try and incorporate into my pieces.
I was interested in Greek myths growing up, so I sort of knew it vaguely, but I knew other ones better. But having done this show, obviously now I'm really familiar with this myth in particular.
I had grown up reading, I used to read loads of Roman myths, so I grew up reading all those stories. There was like a series of books I used to always read, and I study history, so I was sort of into that. But since doing this, I've started to read all about Greek mythology and gotten into all of that, and it's so interesting. It's such a weird world that we've managed to just immerse ourselves in just because we're doing this.
I didn't know anything about them, so I kind of came in blind and had to learn everything from it. But it's been a nice learning experience to learn about things like who Achilles was and why it's important now, and about who like the different power things are, about like who characters like Agamemnon are. So learning things like that has been eye-opening, especially going in not knowing a lot about like the Iliad and stuff. I think for us, especially as playing the gods, it's been a nice thing to explore of what it means to be immortal and what it means to be away from it, and what that means for us as characters. So that's been a nice thing to explore.
Yeah, I always loved the gods. I always thought the gods were really cool. And it's such a different take on what religion is now. Like the fact that they believed in all these different gods. The gods are much more fickle than the god that a lot of people believe in nowadays is. And I always found them just fascinating. I thought they were really, really cool. So that's probably how I got into it. I didn't know an amazing amount about the Greek myths, but I always thought I love the time period. I've been to Greece actually, I've been to Athens and seen all the architecture and stuff, and I love that. I thought it was really, really amazing and beautiful. So it's really interesting to imagine what life would have been like back then.
And it's so nice the way Jack's sort of rewritten the myths, like so Thetis and BRISEIS, the way they're written about in the traditional stories. BRISEIS is hardly mentioned.
I think BRISEIS gets 2 lines, even though she's so important in the story. She gets 2 lines in the whole Iliad, which goes on forever.
And Thetis, like as Achilles' mum, is just so like bitter and just mean, and she comes across really, really nasty. Whereas Jack's just written her as just a grieving mother, which is so nice.
Yeah, he's made them much more personal. You relate to them much more, which is nice. Or at least you hope. I hope you do.
From my head, it was always a fringe piece. In my head, it was always really small, one location. So I thought it would work really well at fringe festivals. Actually, Joey's made it bigger, but it's still pretty contained.
Narrowed the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like originally it was a 2-hander. It was just Achilles and Patroclus, which I think would have been better.
Ah, I didn't know that. That's actually really cool.
But it's grown since then. But yeah, I always wanted to take it to fringe festivals. I didn't have my sights as big as we've gone, because we've gone obviously Edinburgh Fringe, but I wanted to take it to those kind of venues because I thought it would work there in the themes, because in the show we talk about masculinity and we talk about LGBT themes, and we kind of touch on feminism, and I thought those themes as well, they're really what thrives at fringe festivals. It's that kind of atmosphere. So yeah, that was the goal.
I love Greek mythology. I think it's great. I think it's really important to keep telling like really ancient stories, because they repeat themselves through history, so it's really important to keep telling those stories.
I love them now. Literally, I went in knowing absolutely nothing, and I've come out at the end and I love them. I think they're great. It's exactly what Tabby said of them being super current. Like characters like Achilles are great because he's not what people think he is traditionally from the stories. So it's been really nice to adapt that into like a modern, current character.
It's all Bracknell based. We're all based in Bracknell, around Southwell Park, the lovely Wild Theatre.
So I used to work there. I've worked there for about 10 years.
I grew up at a Saturday, like going to a Saturday drama group with Laura and with Amy.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't
Amy,
know that.
Yeah, so Amy came as well. And all of our productions were over at Southwell Park, where Joey at the time was head technician.
Yeah, it's technical director.
About 5 years ago I started directing. I actually worked in the technical side, I was a production manager. But I did a degree at Reading in directing, so I wanted to get back into that.
And we've done a lot of community theatre around in Bracknell. A lot of us coming in and out, going off and doing different things, then coming back. And we just found that we had a really good working relationship.
So as we've grown up there, we've gone from doing kind of like the Saturday group performances into doing more of like the big shows that Southall Park does, the big community ones, the pantos and everything like that. And then everything just kind of merged together.
So I think we decided that we wanted to set something up that was going to take us further. A lot of us want to be in the professional industry, and so yeah, that's sort of how it.
Yeah, it was these guys that set it all up, and we've all done shows together at Southall Park back in Bracknell, and they sort of reached out to all of us and were like, come help us, we're doing this, and I was just like, yeah, let's go for it. Well, thank you.
That's right.
It's so nice to have like a group of people who are not only really close friends, but like a group of people who are also passionate about theatre and so in love with it. I think it's really important, especially now when it's all trying to be cut out of schools and stuff, to have people who are so passionate about making it good, and when it needs to be worked on, they're all like, yeah, let's change it, let's make it better. It's so nice because there's no like awkwardness there. They're all just, it's all for the betterment of the show, which is really nice to have in a little company, I think.
About 5 years ago, I directed a crazy promenade production of Peter Pan, which went out into the grounds, and it was the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. And these guys were both in it, and then they've been in pretty much all of my shows that I've directed there. So I've directed about 12 shows there.
It was definitely through Peter Pan that everyone everyone merged in on that, and it all happens in that little magical building, because we started with Peter Pan with all of us. We then did the Magic Finger debut. That was really cool.
Yeah. Then
Macbeth, and then we just kept filing on. And then Jack started writing his own stuff because he just got a first. Yeah, graduated. Because you've done a few bits in the studio theatre.
Yeah.
And then you've got this one, which we're going around. But yeah, the group has just come. It's a local group, or with a desire to go, actually, do you know what? Because a lot of the shows we do, people go, oh, I can't believe this is like amateur work. You guys can do this. And we go, we can. And we do it. It's just here. We want to do this show. This is something that we love. We're just doing it in this space. And I think you've done really well to get everyone together that wants to move it to somewhere else with something that definitely has legs.
Yeah,
so
hopefully.
I think you've done well.
Sort of formed your own little friendship circle. And these were the first guys I approached when I thought about directing Wrath of Achilles. Because I've done 2 Shakespeare's. I've done Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet, which is sort of quite similar. They're kind of filmic, and they have the soundtrack by George Jennings going through it. And these guys have both sung in those, as have I, in one of them. So they just went like the ideal choice. Plus our hair colours are great, because we have different combinations of hair colour.
We've all done shows together before, but it's nice to bring us all together and have, because usually like it differs in role, like size of role, but in this we're all equally as busy. Like while people may have more lines than we sing, but we're all current and always present, which is such a nice thing, and we all get on so well. It's so nice as a company to basically be performing with your friends for like an hour, so that's lovely as well. And working with people like Anne, our costume designer, and George, the composer, we know them all, but like working with them on a new project that no one's done before is really exciting.
We, a couple of times since kind of all coming together as a group, making the local shows at Southall Park, have floated around with the idea of, oh, we should do something together, we should make our own work. And last year I just kind of went, screw it, what's the worst that could happen? So I set up Bedivere in its very early stage, literally just as a name to use to produce my first play in the Little Theatre at Southall Park, and then which Laura was in, and Joey designed all the tech for that. And so then we sat down, myself, Laura and Joey, and we went, right, what do we do with it from here? And then we moulded it into what it is now. So what our mission statement is we like telling old stories, classical stories that people know, but in new, modern ways. And we like giving voices to people who perhaps don't get those voices all the time. So Laura obviously has quite a strong focus on really getting strong female characters into the show. Joey has a really strong focus on LGBT voices. And then we just got all of these amazing creatives that we'd met and said, let's make something, let's bring something together. So we got all the actors, all the singers, costume designers, composers, and just said, right, we want to put something together. Let's do something which is our own, and this is the result of that. You're a good hype man.
Yeah, I'm just standing behind you like, woo!
I'm so bad at this.
I don't know, so I'll try it.
You go.
So we start, well, the whole thing takes place in Achilles' tent. So you have this, I'm about to describe myself in the third person. You have Achilles, so you have this godlike warrior, ideally, in the middle of the war. And when we bring the gods into it, you get everything that they kind of bring. So destiny or fate. And Achilles is trying to go through this journey, knowing what he knows about himself. Like, he knows what his destiny is meant to be, and he's there kind of to live it out because he doesn't think there's kind of much more to it. But when they take BRISEIS, who is one of the princesses of where?
Lyrnessus.
Lyrnessus.
You definitely say that in the show.
I do say it in the show, and I know my lines, I swear. She brings something else to the table, and then Achilles and Patroclus discover that maybe there is more to Achilles' life than just fighting, and maybe that's not all that he is. Maybe there's a bit of love in there and a bit of leading the way for change in the world. And it's down to if he can achieve these, or does fate play out however it plays out. No matter how much you strive for one thing, is fate going to get in the way, or is it possible to throw fate aside and change the world?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a story about how much is laid out for us, how much is who we are and who we were born, both in terms of where we were born and gender, status. How much do those things impact the choices we make?
Yeah, because from the three like human characters, everything is different. Everything is different. So Achilles is born as a demigod. BRISEIS is born as a princess or a queen, and Patroclus was born into a high house, but actually has lived
a
very low
lower
status.
life.
So everyone comes in at this different thing, and everyone on every kind of social level has a different point of view. So when they all come together at loggerheads, that's where the tension builds.
It was nice and dramatic, I liked it.
Open palms, yes!
Originally, our plan with the gods were that we were going to echo the characters. So Aphrodite was going to echo Patroclus, Artemis was going to echo BRISEIS, and Aries was going to echo Achilles, which we sort of ran with for Bath, but then discovered it worked, but not in the style that we needed it to. So we have the character THETIS in the piece, who's this powerful goddess, and we kind of wanted to have the gods manipulate the story that the audience see on stage, with THETIS telling the story and acting as like the narrator. So that's kind of our main role in the piece. We've definitely come, I think, a development along with the piece, because we didn't exist in the original writing. We sort of went, we're going to sing, now we need parts. Which was a big discussion. It was one of our first workshop discussions of who we were going to be, what our purpose was, why it was important we were there. That's sort of our main role.
Yeah,
so basically we sort of interweave the action. So most of the time we use just in the transitions. There's a couple of scenes where we stay and watch, scenes which are kind of more related to our god role. So like I represent love, so I stay on for the very first moment that I can see a love between Achilles and Patroclus. You stay on when BRISEIS is in and she's training, and you stay on when Achilles is kind of really riled up and kind of enraged. So we sort of represent emotional journeys of the characters as well. I become very invested in Patroclus and the love story, so I get super upset by the end. No spoilers. Artemis is really embroiled with BRISEIS' story and representing femininity and women in Trojan and Greek warfare. And you're all about getting everyone out there fighting.
Yeah, I'm all about the war. Let's get them out there.
That's a kind of epitaph of the piece, I would say. It's a bit like watching a film, but live on stage. It's got a very filmic aesthetic. There's a soundtrack that runs all the way through the piece. So that kind of intersperses the transitions between the scenes and underscores some of the kind of more intense monologues.
Visually, Joey likes to make things quite striking, quite cinematic. Putting ancient Greece on stage is hard and expensive, so we've tried to get around that slightly by it taking a slightly more expressionist style with it. So the set is just boxes and drapes and carpets, really, which is kind of a necessity for the Fringe.
It's good because it actually kind of gives it a 3D kind of look, because you forget that the floor is the floor. There's enough there for your brain to fill in the blanks, and you kind of go, oh, I can kind of assume what this whole room looks like now, so that's really lovely.
Yeah, it kind of gives you an indication what it might look like. But it's all slightly post-apocalyptic, so everything's a bit burnt and a bit distressed, because we pick up the story 10 years into the war. This war has been going on for so long, under baking hot sun. It's just attrition. So we see that a lot in the design of it. It all looks kind of a bit ruined.
Yeah, absolutely. But it fits. It fits perfectly.
And then the costumes are they're kind of Greek, like faux Greek inspired. So there's elements of modern stuff in there. They're not entirely historically accurate, but they're not meant to be. They're meant to look like kind of modern clothing through an ancient Greek lens.
Yeah.
So they all look really cool, actually. It's a cool mashup because it feels both modern and ancient at the same time, and that's hopefully what the costumes in the set do as well. Because the story, though it's an ancient story, we think it's really relevant, and so we kind of try to bring those two.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ancient side and the modern side, we try to bring them together in all of the elements, in the design, in the music, in the costumes. What Joe really brings over well, because he did film and theatre when he studied at Reading University. And the difference, I think, sometimes between film and theatre is that you don't get that like switch off. The scenes roll into each other, that you get the momentum. Whereas I think sometimes in theatre, especially kind of classical theatre, you have a scene and then there's a blackout and a man in black walks on and moves the furniture around. And Joey really takes all that away. He takes away that opportunity for the audience to switch off and get disconnected. Everything, the movement between scenes is choreographed for effect. And for emotional resonance. So yeah.
Ooh, emotional resonance.
Yeah,
oh, what a term! Look at that.
That's why I'm the writer.
Yeah, that's why you're in charge. That's good. And then it's all topped off with the music, which is sung in Greek.
Yeah.
Do you know this?
It is Greek.
My family's Greek, so they sent me a passage to send to like my family to translate it. To which my family came back and they were like, "This does not translate very well at all. Like, it just doesn't." But we gave it to our composer. We gave it to George, and he's pieced together some lovely bits.
And the music's that same kind of amalgamation of genres, because it's got elements of what you might imagine ancient Greek music sounds like, kind of traditional Greek folk, but then interweaved with that, it's got rock, kind of indie rock roots in it as well.
There's some dirty guitar bits in there.
Yeah.
That's I can describe it. Dirty guitar
and electronic stuff as well. So it's.
What next? Then we've got George Jennings involved. So I've worked with him, as I said, a couple of times. He's an incredible composer, and he writes the kind of things that I like, very filmic. So I sent him some styles that I liked. I asked him if we can do it in Greek. Got Mike's family, who are Cypriot, to translate some words from the Iliad into Greek, so we could use those for the lyrics. And then we cast it and started rehearsals in February? March?
Yeah, we started workshopping around December time.
Oh yeah, workshop in December.
And we started January, February time.
Yeah.
So we have George Jennings, who has written our music for us, and we've used him a few times because it's almost like a winning formula. His music is just fantastic to go with the style of scenes. So a lot of the transitions, or all of the transitions, have this lovely music that we use to narrate the bits in between that the text perhaps doesn't say. And it just brings this kind of immersiveness to it, where you're taken in the whole time. There's not really an off bit, because you watch the scenes and you go, wow, I'm in the scene, I believe the scene, this is really good. And then you have the transition and you go, actually, wow, this music just brings something new to it, and when it all comes together over the top.
But what George is really great at is that you give him any sort of style and he can just make this beautiful, amazing music.
As an actor, the way George's music changes the way we do it, and I now find myself, if we're rehearsing without the music, I'm like, oh god, It doesn't feel right, and he really captures what we're trying to say and makes our life easier in a way.
It's very emotive.
Yeah.
Very emotive. Like, I think it will bring something out of the audience, and it adds just a whole nother layer to what we already have, which is just great. I don't think it would be right without it.
No.
So originally we were just going to do Edinburgh. We were just going to do Southwold Park, which is our local venue, and then we suddenly found out about Bath, and Jack's family has a house in Bath, or a flat, a very small flat. So we were like, oh my god, let's go there because it'll be cheap. And then we got to Bath, and then Mike had contacts at the union here and asked them very nicely, and they very lovely said yes, come along for these 2 days just before we go to Edinburgh. We should do these 2 days here, and then we go to Edinburgh on Tuesday by 10 a.m. So it's quite intense, but to get a London venue for this show is amazing. It's really, and for these guys and for our cast who are kind of trying to work towards being professional actors, having a London venue is just amazing. It means they can invite agents and get noticed, get London reviews, have an experience of London theatre. Yeah, it's great.
We did Bath Fringe where we lived in 2 flats, 2 very small flats, so we were a bit crushed in. But that was only for 3 days.
It was crazy. It was crazy. No, we had a lovely time. It was really, really nice.
I've never been to Bath before, and it was just like the people there were so welcoming and so nice, and we were sort of flying on the streets there, and so many of them would stop and ask us what we were doing and all about it, and we got such a good response from everyone, which was so nice. And we had been rehearsing it for so long and we were all quite sort of heady with it and didn't know how people were going to respond, and we got such a nice response, and people sort of reassured us, you're going to be alright, you've got a good show here.
Yeah.
And it made us sort of enjoy it a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really exciting and, again, terrifying experience of putting work that you've poured your heart into out there for everyone to comment on, basically. That is sort of what it is. And getting the feedback that we did was really amazing and really helpful, actually. There's things that we've taken from Bath and changed now to try and make the show even better, which I think is such a positive thing, because we had that time and we had that ability and we could do so.
We learned a lot of Bath Fringe.
Yeah, I rewrote half the show because getting it in front of an audience was so different from it being on the page.
Because it was kind of like a preview festival for us. And since that, we've done quite a lot of work developing the piece. So the first 7-8 scenes are actually very different now to how they were. And the whole purpose of the gods has changed, the time period sort of changed. So it's really useful for that as well.
And I rewrote the half of the show which I'd written first about 2 years ago, and it had changed, but that was the oldest half of the show, and I went, it's not aged as well as I would have liked it to compared to the second half of the show. So we wrote that creatively. We learned a lot about the show, about what, because we have the characters, we have you, me and Laura, we play the 3 human characters, and then we have a narrator and 3 gods who do all the singing. And we learned a lot about the way their roles interact with each other, where the focus needs to be. So creatively, we learned that.
There's a lot of time spent on that in the rehearsal room, obviously having these godlike roles. We were like, how do we want to actually get them involved in the actual piece? And I think just going into Bath with an idea and then watching it play out then and going, we needed Bath to go, this is what it actually is, and we can make that clearer and really utilise it now.
In terms of actually just being at the Fringe, did we learn anything? Flyering's hard, but necessary.
Cooking for 7 people at once is hard. Like, I'm just going to cook 9 peppers right now. It should only take me 7 minutes.
No.
2 hours later, how are those peppers coming along, Mike?
Yeah, I think because we do all get on, it's been quite easy for us to perform and live together for short periods of time.
But it was wicked, like, and Bath is lovely as well.
Yeah, it's a nice city. It's a nice kind of low-key way to do it, because it's nowhere near as bonkers as Edinburgh. It's a bit lower key.
Much less competitive flyering.
Yeah.
It was just us and the street performers. But
Yeah, we did compete with a lot of people swallowing fire and things.
But we made it.
And we did. We had quite a long break between Bath and our next show. It was a couple of months actually, because we finished in Bath at the end of May.
In the meantime?
Like Bath, when we finished our run, was lovely because we all just went Look what we did. How cool was that?
Yeah.
You went to China.
Oh yeah.
Joey did a couple of jobs. Then we came back to the rehearsal room. We just last week did the kind of start of our run up to Edinburgh at Southall Park in their little theatre. We did 3 nights there, which you came and saw. Now we're here at the Union, and then we're heading off.
So Edinburgh is this amazing bubble of bizarreness. I don't know how else to describe it. It's thousands and thousands of people coming together to put on shows from all different walks of life, from all different angles, and it's really amazing to actually. This is the first time I'm taking my own show, if that makes sense. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough month. It's going to be hard, and we've got to try and convince people to come to our show rather than everybody else's. But I think that we've got something really special here, and it would be really great if we can get those audiences in and get them to see this, because that's how it works. Word of mouth is the best thing that you can have.
I performed that once when I meant to, and once when I didn't mean to. So when we were.
How did you not mean to?
Because, well, I went up when I was 17 with Laura. We did like this thing where we were paired with a charity. I can't remember what it was. War Child, I think it was. They had that song that was like, I got soul, but I'm not a soldier, which is a really good song until you play it 7,000 times. But we went up and we did that when we were like 17. Laura's been up there loads now. She does
7 times.
Yeah, she
8
does
times.
something. She's been there like consistently since. And then there was one year I went up to go watch my friends because they were doing like the music of Les Mis, and they were like, "Oh, so Brad was in a dance-off last night and he's twisted his ankle. He thinks he's broken it. Do you mind singing Thenardier?" And I was like, sure. Let's just dive on stage. So I jumped on stage for them. It was fine.
That is such a you story.
I've been up as an audience member. I went last year for a week, stayed with this guy.
Yeah, I was up last year. I went up with the kids musical and we went up for the whole month. So it was very eye-opening and learning experience, but I'm excited to go up this year again. I think last year definitely showed me what it was. I kind of went in a bit like starry-eyed and really excited, whereas this year I'm like, I know the whole flyery business, like doing the whole show, the long run. Yeah, I'm excited to go up again for year 2. It should be really fun.
I've never been. This is my first time.
I've never been before, so I'm equally terrified and excited at the same time. But I think I'm in safe hands, and I think we'll get on so well. So I think we're gonna have such a good time.
I'm really excited. I am really excited. It's definitely right up my street. But yeah, I'm just super excited. I'm obviously aware of the whole flyering thing and like all the shows and stuff, but I'm just really excited to be surrounded by theatre-y people. It's so nice. It's so rare now to have like a group of people who are so passionate about it all in one place. So yeah, I'm really excited.
I don't know if it's worse than I have done before. I was saying this to Jack the other day, is that you have an idea of what to expect, but then this time, because it's my own show, there's so much more pressure on it. And I can't just go with the blasé attitude of,
Like me.
yeah, like you, I'm in
Right.
the same hands, yeah, it's really fine. Whereas I'm going, oh god, I'm in charge of a load of things that I've not had to be in charge of before and stuff, so.
I've actually really enjoyed the producing side. I really like. I get it from my mum. I like kind of organised things. I like spreadsheets. Which sounds so nerdy saying it out loud. It's been hard, but it's been quite enjoyable and it's rewarding. Like it's really nice to put something out there and to put it together and then see it become a thing. And then you're like, we did this. We sourced all of those props. We had the set made. We booked the venues. We printed the flyers.
It's go.
I've been on hold to DPD so many times to get posters. But then when you see the posters around places, you're like, oh, that was worth the 2-hour phone call I had with the choreographer.
Totally worth it.
So yeah, it's been really good fun. A huge learning experience.
It's going to be on
Edinburgh, Scotland,
Greenside. No, I've got this.
Edinburgh, we are at Greenside at Infirmary Street in the Mint Studio, because there's a few little venues there. We are on from the 3rd to the 24th, but not the 11th or 18th, at 5:20 p.m. every night. £10.
£10.
£10, concessions £9.
And we just want more people to see it, because the more people that see it, the more that they'll talk about it, and then hopefully word will spread.
Yeah, West End. Next.
Yeah.
Are we friends of the Fringe?
We are friends of the Fringe as well.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is my song. I'm Achilles. If you like, I'll bring you to your knees. Buy a ticket, please, please, please.
You rapping?